Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today I'm bringing you guys my top 5 steel ships list. Now, many of you guys have asked what order you should buy steel ships in, and this is a frequent question that keeps popping up, so until they add in more steel ships, which honestly could be like the day after this video goes up, this is the current order that you should buy your steel ships in once you get enough steel. 5 being the last one you should buy, number 1 being obviously the first one you should buy. Now, there are going to be some variations to this list, especially depending upon what class you play most, but for the majority of you guys that watch this channel, this is the correct order for you, because I know a lot of you guys are Battleship guys, because, well, I'm a Battleship guy, but you CV players and DD players, there will be some variation for you. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive right on in, starting at number 5, which is the Tier 10 American carrier, the FDR, which is being represented here by the Enterprise, because I don't have the FDR. And obviously, if you were a CV main, this is your number 1 pick, because, well, it's the only pick, but it's a pretty good pick. The FDR is extremely powerful right now, especially in a competitive setting. And most of these ships we are going to be talking about in a competitive setting, because that's the idea behind steel ships for the most part, that they are some of the best ships to be used in things like clan battles and ranked, but they are often pretty darn strong in random battles as well. So anyway, the FDR, it's the FDR. It's a midway with planes that have an insane amount of health, but they're very slow and they don't get a heal. And honestly, in the competitive setting, that really doesn't matter that much, because you're only fighting 7 ships, and when you're only fighting 7 ships instead of 12, well, that's a whole lot less AA that you got to deal with. And even in random battles, sometimes the AA isn't quite enough to deal with the FDR, unless you're sitting around 4 other AA ships. Then yeah, you'll be fairly protected from the FDR then. But anyway, the FDR, on top of having an insane amount of planes per squadron, each plane also drops an insane amount of ordnance. If you haven't seen videos of the FDR being played, go watch some of them. It's absolutely insane. And the deal is, each ordnance in and of itself doesn't do that much damage, but when you're dropping just the insane amounts that FDR is, and they all connect, it gonna hurt. It gonna hurt hard. For example, I think each flight of torpedo bombers drop 8 torpedoes per attack run, and yeah, if you only hit 3 of them, it doesn't hurt that much. But considering it's a CV, and the CVs can pretty much always guarantee you'll need most of their ordnance in most cases, especially if they're very good CV players, unlike myself, it's gonna hurt. And the dive bombers too, well, they don't really dive, the more of carpet bombers, it's easy for an FDR to do about 22k to 25k in one run with its dive bombers. Now granted, it is HE damage, so you can it's not citadel damage like the Richthofen, where you can't repair that. It's just good old normal damage, so you can repair most of that back, but so it's a lot of damage to eat in one run. But anyway, yeah, if you're a CV player, for sure go after the FDR. Coming in at number 4 is the Tier 10 American destroyer, the Samaras. Now, the Samaras is, of course, going to be your number 1 pick for you DD mains out there, but for the rest of you guys, it's going to be fairly high up on your list, especially since, it's a DD, and most of you guys watching are probably Battleship guys. But anyway, so the guns hurt like hell. You got 12 16.5 kilometer gearing torps on a quick reload and a nice detect. The downsides are a low HP pool and no AA, but the AA part can also be a blessing, because potatoes and CVs can't drop you easily. The issue with the guns is sort of the same as Paulo. They just don't reload fast enough to bring DPM to the fight. But Summers also has American smoke, so you can pad your stats a little after setting fires and peppering after the target damage cons of Flood. It's a pretty good destroyer all around for clan battles, even if there's a CV involved, especially if you have a CV of your own that can provide fighter cover for the Samaras. And we've ran it a couple of times in ranked, in clan battles. Not this season, I do not believe, but season 9 was when the DDs were rotating in and out when we were trying to figure out what the heck we were going to use for our comp. So it's a pretty good DD. I mean, I'm not a DD player. Oh, and it's being represented by the kid here because that's my only high tier American destroyer. It was this Apollo or a Colbert, and I figured since the kid is actually American, it'd be the better representation. But yeah, it's not a gunboat. It's basically an American shimmy, and those torpedoes hurt like crap, especially with 12 of them, and again with the nice reload time. It's a pretty good all around. Well, not all around destroyer. It's a pretty good torpedo destroyer if you're looking for one. All right, coming in at number 3, we have the Shikishima, the Tier 10 Japanese battleship. Man, I love this thing so much. This ship, the thing with the Shikishima, why it's third on the list. It's a fun ship, but in competitive, it doesn't really do anything that the Yami doesn't do. Except for its secondaries. I mean, the 20-inch guns of the Shikishima overmatch the same stuff that Yami does. I mean, you have like a 30, I think like what? A couple of 38mm plates here and there that you can overmatch with the Shiki, but it's nothing major. So it's like, if you want to bring a Shiki, you might as well just bring a Yami, because with the Yami you can throw 9 shells at the target instead of 6 shells. And yes, the 6 shells are 6 big ol' shells, but at the end of the day, especially in competitive, throwing more crap at the target is better than throwing less crap at the target, especially when you don't get any more major thresholds being passed by the 20-inch guns. I mean, there's no point really. Now the secondaries, sure, the secondaries are pretty useful in late game when you're forced to get in close, because the Yami is not that good in close engagements. The Shiki isn't fantastic at it either, but she has some of the, well, actually the highest DPM of any battleship secondaries at tier 10. Now they can't pin like the German secondaries can, but they reload freaking like you should be seeing a pretty good example of that right now, just how crazy they can get, especially when you get low down on health and have adrenaline rush. It's like having a Harugumo strapped to either side of your ship, and that's great. And you get the sound effect too. I mean, who doesn't love the Shikishima's gun sound effect? It's beautiful. It's a work of art. The sound department should be being paid the big bucks for this. But it's an incredibly fun ship. And yeah, you could use it in competitive, but it's just a Yami at the end of the day. It does the same thing, serves the same role, is a little bit better in closer engagements because of the secondaries. But other than that, just bring a Yami. But I would recommend you guys get it after you get the first 2 on our list. Coming in at number 2, we have the Tier 10 French battleship, the Bergon. So the Bergon, it's an Alsace, but better in just about every way. She has much more accurate guns. She has a higher sigma than the Alsace, much better dispersion, and she has reload booster on those guns as well. So that right there takes 12 15-inch French battleship guns with French velocities and gives them accuracy. A lot of accuracy, and unfortunately I don't have the Bergon, so the Alsace is actually standing in for it. So you see all that crazy dispersion on the Alsace guns? Get rid of that and have them be almost lasers. That's the Bergon. Bergon, I think it currently has the highest average damage of any of the tier 10 BBs. I think, don't quote me on that, it might have been passed up by the Shikishima now, but this thing is absolutely crazy, because not only do you, you get a quicker reload too, by the way. I think it's like a 28 second base reload or something like that. So you have that, and then you also have the reload booster consumable, to where you can get that down to like a 12 to 13 second reload time on 12 15-inch French guns. Now there are 15-inch guns, so not a whole lot of overmatching going on at tier 10, but if something gives you broadside, oh my god, you're going to absolutely delete them. And also, if something doesn't give you broadside, just load HE and just melt them again with the reload of the guns and the reload booster. Like, good god, nothing is going to survive. And also, she has pretty good secondaries. The Alsace and the Bergon are probably the only 2 French battleships that it's actually worth building the secondaries with, except maybe the Republic, but even then the Republic isn't even that good. But the Alsace and the Bergon are. They have more secondaries, and it's just better suited for brawling than the Republic. I'm not saying that the Republic can't brawl. I'm just saying the Alsace and the Bergon are just better with it, better for it with their armor, with the number of guns, with the turret setup, and even where the secondaries are placed. But it's a fantastic ship and should definitely be your number 2 pick when you get enough steel. And it's, well, no, I'm actually going for the FDR now because it's been requested by a patron, but Bergon is very, very close up to being the next ship I buy for steel. Alright, coming in at number 1, we have the Tier 10 Soviet battle cruiser, the Stlingrad. Who didn't see this coming? Stlingrad, man. This ship used to be considered the epitome of Russian bias in the game, but it's since been surpassed by a couple other ships, and it's still a very strong ship, and it's absolutely a nutty ship. So you get your 9 12-inch Soviet guns with Soviet velocity, Soviet pins, and of course that sweet short fuse time, to where you don't overpin a whole lot of stuff. I mean, you will get overpins, but much less so than in other super cruisers. That's also why Stalingrad's so good at dealing with small lints, because the shells will pin the armor of the small lints, but because of the short fuse time, they will detonate inside of the small lints and citadel the crap out of it. On top of that, you get your 12-kilometer radar that lasts much longer than the Petropavlovsk radar. You get that sweet Soviet nose armor to where when you're bowing in, you're nigh invincible. And not to mention, because of the velocity and pin of the guns, you will still citadel things like battleships. And even with the short fuse time, you will still citadel the crap out of battleships. You can citadel Yamis at like 20 kilometers. With the Stlingrad, you get DFAA, which is pretty nice. The A on the Stlingrad, I mean, it's still pretty good, even in today's CV rework world. And in competitive, it's, again, kind of hit or miss. It all depends upon the CV player you are facing. So the Stlingrad it's a tank. It's got radar. It can put out the punishment. It's not good in close quarters, though, because its sides are made of absolute tissue paper. And unlike the Petropavlovsk, it doesn't, it's not functioning as almost a submarine on the surface, so it actually sits up pretty high up out the waterline. So if you do show a little bit too much ankle, you will get the crap slapped out of you in the Stlingrad, but it should still absolutely be your number 1 pick for your first still ship. The utility, the tankiness, and the firepower that it brings cannot be matched. And plus, it fits in a cruiser slot because it is a super cruiser and not a battleship. It actually has more health than a lot of Tier 9 battleships, ironically. But it's a fantastic ship and should for sure be your number 1 pick. Alright guys, that's my list for still ships, so we know what you think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, the Patreon link is in the description down below. Anyway guys, I hope you're having a wonderful Monday. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to catch you guys in the next one.